Imagine inheriting a crumbling chateau on a misty French countryside, its history etched in broken beams and silent walls. For Dan Preston, this ruin represented more than a renovation project, it was a calling. But there's another story unfolding quietly alongside the stonework, the evolving journey of Dan and his long-term partner, Annelise. Dan first captured hearts not as the star of his own channel, but as Dan the gardener on the Chateau Diaries. His gentle diligence and skilled hands quietly won over viewers. Then, in 2022, he took a leap, buying a derelict estate, Chateau de Chaumont, for just €60,000. The roof was gone, utilities were dead, and the structure was barely standing. What was built in 1886 had seen far too much decay, but Dan saw potential and historical responsibility. It had sheltered nearly 200 Jewish children during World War II. His restoration efforts began immediately, with no frills, just careful work, respect for legacy, and honest progress. This raw and unfiltered documentation changed everything. His YouTube channel, once dormant, began growing rapidly. Followers found peace in watching him rebuild, stone by stone, reconnecting the chateau to electricity and chewing through problems with nothing more than grit. His content wasn't flashy, it was slow, genuine, and deeply human. With over 250,000 subscribers tuning in daily, Dan transformed that silent ruin into an inspiration. But behind the camera, his personal life shifted. Dan and Annelise had been partners for years. Together they raised 2 children and restored a farmhouse that became their family home. Viewers subtly noticed the change. By 2021, Annelise stopped appearing. Dan began living in an Airbnb while the children and Annelise stayed on the old farmstead. Fans speculated and some wondered, was the separation permanent? Then something surprising happened. In a recent episode of the Chateau Diaries, Dan and Annelise reappeared together. There was no drama, no sensational moment, just quiet mutual respect and a calm, shared glance. It was a reunion, not of a couple, but of 2 people committed to co-parenting with grace. On reflection forums, one viewer commented, "They chose kindness over headlines, and that matters." Another said, "It's rare to see an ex-partner treated like family." Though they're no longer romantically linked, their connection holds in mutual responsibility and love, less dramatic, yes, but far more meaningful. Today, Dan continues building wall-mounted scaffolds, open beams, the slow satisfaction of each completed room. He remains on-site, working steadily on the chateau that drew him there. Annelise remains grounded in the farmhouse, taking care of their children, in a role quietly powerful. Some view this as bittersweet, but others see it as a modern agreement of respect, dreams held by one, heart anchored by both. It's a story not about separation or reunion, but about who 2 people become when shared chapters close, and new ones begin together, quietly, compassionately. Dan didn't just restore a building, he demonstrated how relationships evolve, how respect endures, and how legacy matters even when the structure has changed. And that, perhaps, is the most authentic restoration of all.